All right. From now I have started recording. Good morning to everybody. All right. So currently I have put it all on the participants on mute. Just in case you have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to unmute yourself and speak up. Okay. So for today we'll be discussing about the transaction codes and how do we configure the transaction codes with the taxes. And a little bit later we'll be discussing more into the forms as well. Okay, now to configure a transaction codes, if you have logged into HMS, it will be under the administration, property, setup, and down below here we have the transaction code screen, right? So once you are in the transaction code screen, this would be the screen that you were going to enter the transaction codes. Now, I'll be showing you some examples, basic examples on how do we enter the transaction codes in the system manually. But later on, I'll be having the list that you have given me right here to be uploaded in the system, right? The same goes with the rooms. I'll be uploading the um, um, basic codes of the transaction codes, right? Or the basic information for the transaction codes. And later on, after the upload has been complete, the finance has still to go into the transaction code and check the accuracy and the field in those upload sheets if everything has been uploaded correctly, or if there's any modification, then the property finance can go and update it from here, right? Let me just check on one thing right here to see if you have the access now. All right, so currently I still see one user that has been created, but basically if you need to go and check the configuration, you might want to use the config user group user with the password, and you'll be having the access to this part of the screen right here. Okay. All right, so one example, let me just create the transaction code room, right? So of course we have the 6-character codes. Let me just split the screen. Right, and maximize for a better view. Okay, so first I'm going to copy the 6-character codes right into the transaction code field right here, right? And next to that one is the description, right? And if you have noticed, during the past discussion, we have already the list of the transaction type and the revenue type right here, right? I hope this is final from the finance, right? Because this is going to be used as well for the upload later on, right? So from here, we have the transaction type. We can select the necessary transaction type right down below here. Again, just a little bit of a review. Transaction type will be used for the finance to pull out the revenue report by grouping, right? So basically, all the transaction group will be having its transaction type to reflect in your reports or financial reports, such as your transaction totals in balancing for the day's activity. Revenue type, however, is going to be used by the system in its own system check or system reporting, just like on calculating your ADR, your food revenue, and so on, right? So basically, revenue type is for the system, transaction type is for the property reporting, right? Now, going down here in the transaction type, I'm just going to select right here for the room revenue, right? And going down right here is the revenue type, which is as well as rooms, room charge to be specific. All right. Now, first thing is what we in here in the transaction details, right? You can skip these reporting sort order for now. This is going to be used in the forms, right? So Our programmer is going to use this one in terms of the arrangement of this transaction in the forms. Let's say in the invoice, if which transaction code should be displayed at first, right? Now, posting level, I believe finance was not there last Friday when we were discussing the posting level, right? Let me just do a little bit of recap about this posting level right here. Okay, so if I'm going to pull out your user group, okay, you have several user group in the system. Okay, let's say we have FOM, FOS, and guest assistant, right? So let's pick up these three basic user groups right here. Okay, and these users that is assigned to this user group would be having separate user rights and separate sets of transaction code that they can post themselves, right? Let's add here to have a better idea, housekeeping, right? So they are actually separated by the user group and they will be having separate um, sets of transaction code that they are allowed to post. For example, for housekeeping, they are not allowed to post room accommodation, right? We'll give the sole privilege or access for the front office to post room accommodation, right? Let's say the only thing that they're going to post is, let's say, extra bed charges, minibars, right? So what I'm going to do right here is, let's say I'm going to list as well the transaction code right over here. So let's say minibar, laundry, say payments, and finally, let's say room charge, right? So as I've said, HK is not allowed to post room charge, right? And some of the properties, they would actually restrict as well housekeeping on collecting payments, right? They might want to just post the charges in the folio, but payment is going to be processed by the front desk, right? So you can create a restriction for that based on the transaction code using what we call posting level, right? So I'm just going to insert one column right here and call it posting level. Okay. Now, let's say for posting level, it is actually being read by the system as 1 to 9. 1 being the lowest and 9 being the highest, with all the privilege of posting all the transaction code that is marked from level 9 to 1. So it means if I give the access level to 9 for FOM and let's say 1 to housekeeping, since housekeeping has the least number, the only transaction code that is going to post is on those level 1. Whereas for FOM, since he has the level 9, all the transaction codes that is marked as posting level 9 below, right? From level 9 up to level 1, he has the access to post this transaction code, meaning including the transaction code that is for housekeeping, the FOM has the access to post. Okay. All right. So let's say FOM has a level 5, FOS would be level 5 as well, and guest assistant would be level 3. Let's put it that way for now. Right. Now, minibar right here, I can put it as level 1. It means housekeeping. I'm allowing the housekeeping to post it, as well as all those posting level that is higher than level 1. Same as laundry. Oopsie. Posting 1 as well here. And payments, let's say posting level 3. And room charge, let's say posting level 5. Right? So if you see here in my simple demonstration, housekeeping is able to post minibar and laundry. But beyond his posting level, he's not able to do the posting of these payments and room charge. However, for guest services, he is able to post the posting, minibar, laundry, and payments since he has the posting level of 3. And same goes with the FOM and FOS. They will be having the full privilege of posting these transaction codes because they have posting level 5, right? So best way to control the users on the transaction code that they're going to post is that, for example, right here in our transaction code list, we have this breakfast package, right? Food and beverage tobacco. I believe looking at your transaction code list, this would be solely posted by the POS, right? So we don't want this transaction code to be posted by any users manually, right? So what we're going to do here is that for this transaction code, let me just put this one as my interface group. I do have an interface group user group wherein all my interfaces would be mapped under this user group, right? And I can put this one as level 9. That means all the transaction code with posting level 9, the interface can post directly to HMS, right? Being this breakfast, food, beverage, and tobacco, I'll be having this one as level 9 strictly because this one is only by the POS posting. If there's a need for the user to post a rebate or adjustment or any manual transaction code, I would allow them to post on the same revenue but using different transaction code, which is marked as M, meaning manual posting. Now, I may want to put this one as level 5 for FOS, right? If I want the FOS to post this one, or level 3, right? For the guest assistant, right? So this is how the property would actually set the transaction code per posting level, wherein the user would never would have a or the property would have a control on what set of transaction code that specific user can post, right? So again, this is not based on user level, right, or user code, but it is tagged on by user group. Okay. Now, another filter or another layer of security is what we call allow posting areas, right? So for this one, let me just put this one as 5, just an example. Okay. If there's a need for you to review what are the posting level for the user group, we can give you a list, or we can just simply go to administration, security, and then we have here user group. Let me just expand this one and click on run. And you would see here different user group would be having different posting level, right? So you can have this list once you're updating your transaction code with the posting level, right? Going back here in the transaction code, we have what we call allow posting areas. So this is an additional security layer that the HMS will enforce, and these posting areas will focus on the status of the account itself, right? When we say status of the account, is the account in-house, checked out, or is it active, right? Or is the booking canceled? Are we allowing this transaction code to be posted on that status, right? Let's say for room accommodation, I'm allowing this one to be posted to the in-house, of course. Let's say pre-registered or your queue rooms. Okay, I don't want this one to be posted on a reserved booking, or else my revenue would be on haywire, since room accommodation should be should be posted correctly on the night it's supposed to be posted on, right? Supposedly be per nightly basis, because my ADR and ARR are all in that transaction codes to be calculated, right? So I don't want the user to be posting the room accommodation in advance, right? So I would leave this one as unticked. For cancelled, I don't want this room accommodation to be posted in the cancelled, because I do have a cancellation charge right here, right? As well as for no-show, since I have my no-show charge, right? I can do that one by using this another security layer called posting areas, right? So in combination of posting levels and posting areas, the user would be having a specific list, a or the property would have a control on what transaction code, on what time this transaction code will be posted by the user group. Okay. Before we go on further, is there any question with the security layers, the posting areas and posting level? Anything from the finance or the property itself?
No, I think so far so good.
Okay. All right. Now, commission, we will get back to this one on the uh, training, right? Basically, for the commission, you can tag the transaction code. If this transaction code is commissionable, right? For example, for room charge, if we're allowing this one to be commissionable, you can set this one as commission base, right? Most common that is being used by the property is by commission base, right? Commission prepaid is that we will discuss this one on commission module in revenue management later on, right? We can add the commission type later on, even if the property is live already. Okay. Now, frequent stay, this is not being used to the property. Direct bill transfer, this only one tick box that we're going to use against our City Ledger transaction code, right? City Ledger right here. In order for you to forward charges from guest ledger to AR ledger for collection, this is the tick box that we're going to distinguish if this transaction code is a direct bill transfer or a city ledger transaction, right? So basically, the take for that one is no revenue should be ticked as direct bill transfer. Pay type, this is where the property will select if the pay type or the transaction code is a cash payment, check, credit card, direct bill transfer for city ledger, and so on, right? So in terms of pay type, let's say I'm selecting this one as cash, just for an example, right? Your revenue type should also should be at least none, or you can delete the revenue type at all, right? If the transaction code is a payment, please do not tag that one as a revenue type, or otherwise your revenue reports would be wrong. Okay, let me just put this one as revenue charge, room charge again. Revenue grouping, this is used for HA or hospitality analytics, that one of your module in terms of price optimization, right? Recommendation and all of that for revenue management. Basically, revenue grouping should be the same as the transaction type, right? When we are checking later on the transaction code, we have to make sure that their transaction type is the same as our revenue type, or otherwise, or vice versa.
Vice versa.
The transaction
The
type
transaction type
should be the
should
same
be
as
the
the
same as
revenue
your revenue.
group, right?
Right.
I think there's
I
one
think
by
there's one
one.
by
Is
one.
there any
Is there
question?
any question?
All right.
All right. All right.
Let me just
Let me just
put you on
put you on.
mute for 1 second. All right. Okay. Again, for the property, once you're checking after I have uploaded all the transaction code, you have to make sure that the transaction type is the same as your revenue grouping, or else hospitality analytics would not work properly, right? Allow adjustments, right? This allow adjustment is for your rebates, right? If you're allowing this transaction code to be adjusted by in the system, you can take this allow adjustment and select the adjustment code, right? Provided that this adjustment code has been uploaded or created as well, right? As of the moment, if I'm selecting any, there's nothing on the list since we don't have any transaction code. Um, we don't have any transaction code uploaded just yet, right? This game goes with the void, right? Adjustment is something like you're partially um, adjusting a transaction that is posted originally, right? Let's say if you're giving 50% off of the original posting, what we call that one as adjustment. Void is completely deleting the transaction code or completely reversing the transaction code, right? Paid out, this is also again used the same as your direct bill transfer. This is only used for paid out transaction, right? Unknown charge, this is you can skip this one for now, right? Unknown charge is for the POS. Our interface group or our interface group will use this one enable for us to do the interfaces. So property would not be using this one at all. No post, again, if let's say no post is like stop posting feature in HMS. You can set a transaction or a reservation on no post if you don't want any transaction code to be posted by the user manually in the system, right? But if you're allowing the transaction code to be posted even though it is on no post, then you can tick this no post transaction, right? So this one, you can leave this one as B, right? I would not recommend to use this one for now. Okay. The only thing that we are going to focus on is with the transaction code record, the security layers, right? The transaction code type and revenue type, revenue grouping, and if we're allowing this transaction code to be adjusted or voided, right? This too is actually a feature in HMS wherein we are, instead of posting the transaction code manually, let's say we have posted, let me just show you in a demo. Here in my guest stay, let me just try to post a transaction right here. And I'll be selecting the folio or the window where I'm going to post it. Let's enter incidental, selecting a transaction code to post laundry, right? And let's say I'm going to post 100, just for an example, right? So we have 100 here posted in my incidental window. And right here in the list, I have my laundry charge right over here. Now, instead of posting the reversal manually, let's say put it against incidental laundry revenue code 1250, right? I can put directly the transaction code if I know it, right? Reversing traditionally, you can put negative right there, 100 to post against the laundry, right? Traditionally, this is what the user or the system would do the reversal, adjustment, or void. Instead of doing that, we have the feature what we called adjust and discount or void, right? Again, if the transaction code is tagged with the adjustment code and the void code, you can use these features right here called adjust and discount and void record. Let's say for laundry, right? Notice this one that this is posted against my incidental folio, right? If I'm going, if you can also see it from here, if I'm going to adjust and this record, I'm just going to select this transaction code, go to adjust and discount record, and you would notice that automatically the system will provide me the adjustment code, right? if you've noticed, they have different transaction code, right? In this specific example, what we are doing is that this adjustment would be using a different transaction code, right? In this case, the user would refrain from selecting a wrong transaction code in terms of adjustment, right? And the amount would automatically be there, -100, and click on submit, right? Don't get me wrong, you can also do this one partially. At that time, I'm going to click on submit. You would notice that there's no incidental charges already. Going down right here, right? I don't have my laundry charge. Also in the active folio, what the system usually is doing is actually after you have posted the adjustment, the user would not be required to transfer the charges from incidental window where I posted the charges originally to other window, right? We have a dedicated correction folio here in HMS wherein at the moment of adjustment, that adjusted charge would be automatically transferred to the correction folio, no user intervention required, right? So you have saved two or three steps right there when you're doing adjustment, posting the charges, selecting the transaction correctly, posting the amount correctly, and moving the transaction code to clean up your folio, right? Because basically I don't want to print my folio with the adjusted charge in there, right? What I'm going to do is to transfer my corrected charge to a different folio, right? And in that feature, the system is doing it for the user or for the property altogether. So that is the use of this feature right here, adjustment code and void code. The same logic will be applied to the void, right? Void would also be transferred to the dedicated correction folio. Okay. Only the difference in the adjustment code and the void code is that for void, it is 100% always adjustment, 100% adjustment always. Okay. Going down right here is exclusively for credit card details. If you're creating a transaction for credit card, Amex, Visa, Master, right, and such, we will select the credit card type right here, and we will select this credit card is used for what type of posting. Is it for folio settlement, delayed settlement, no-show settlement, or advanced deposit, right? Now, for the property, always select folio settlement for the credit card, right? Always use folio settlement since we only have one transaction code for each credit card type, and we are actually interfaced with ADN, right? So we cannot create multiple credit card transaction for one credit card type, right? So ADN would credit card interface would only be using one credit card transaction code per credit card type. When I say so, on a Visa credit card, you'll only be required of one transaction code Visa. You cannot create another transaction code Visa and attach it to the interface credit card. It's a one-to-one relation. In that case, for the property, when we are creating a credit card transaction, always select folio settlement, right? There is one limitation of interface, but in exchange for that one, you have a lot of features just like viewing the credit card number, all right, automating the credit card incidental increments or collection of the charges directly posting in the HMS as well. So those are the benefits of the interface. Okay. Now, after I'm done with this, I'm just going to click on save. Oh, sorry, offsets. Right, so offset is required. Actually, I don't have the offset currently. Let me just click this one out. Let me just create an offset code on a separate screen. Sorry, I missed that one out when we're configuring transaction code. Okay. Okay, system offset. System offset is used only for the system or by the system to distribute revenue or taxes accordingly, right? So this is not a revenue code. In that case, I'm going to tag this one as internal, revenue type as none, posting level as 9 since this is for the system. And I'm going to put in all the posting areas right here since this is for system use, right? Without the offset code, system offset, we are not able to distribute tax accordingly, right? Since we are inclusive or we are inclusive in posting, offset will always be required. Now, in this case, I'm setting it as 9. It means it's reserved for the system or the POS, and all the status of the accounts is allowed to post this transaction, right? Offset would not be posted by any user since this is on level 9. Click and save for that one so that I'm going to use that one as an offset code right over here in the system or against my accommodation transaction code. Click on save and I have now my transaction code right over here. Okay. So this is the basic on creating the record view of the transaction code. Okay. Um, any question before we go further with the other transaction codes from finance? Is it clear on how do we create or check the record of the transaction code?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so that is the record view of the transaction code. Now, on each transaction code, we are also going to attach the taxes, right? And that is controlled by this tax status right here, right? Your taxes are also a transaction code listed right down below here. So it's let me see, go to the taxes. So let me focus first on the uh, taxes for the room charge, right? So I have here my taxes. Okay, tips, rebate tips would not be a taxes, right? So let's see here, it's 0 rated on the tax. Now, in a room charge, right? Let me just skip to a different screen right here in the transaction code. Let me just open up my Excel, right? So just to verify with the property, the taxes that is applicable to Vietnam is 5% service charge, and this is 5%. And for VAT, 10%. Right? This is only for, I think this is for rooms and other charges, right? You have also have, just correct me if I'm wrong, you also have another tax setup wherein there's a service charge and VAT. And added to that one is that you also have what we call consumption tax. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is 30%, and this is only solely being attached to a spa transaction. Is that correct, Miss Helen?
Maybe Ms. Knopp can elaborate.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Right. And then like we apply the function and after that we have Yeah. Let me give you an example. Spa its net revenue is 100 USD. We will apply the service charge 5%. That means 5 USD. And then we apply the consumption expense or consumption tax 30%. Then final, we apply the VAT 10% on the total before tax, before VAT. Yes.
Joshua, you're muted just in case you need us
Oh,
to.
sorry. Thank you for that. All right. So let me just focus first on the um, room taxes. I think this would be the same as the F&B, if I'm not mistaken, right? So for example, for revenue that is actually at 100, let's say just 100 for simple calculation, right? Um, 100 before taxes, right? So this revenue would be having a 5% service charge, and would also be a have would also post a VAT as a subtotal, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just put this one as B, right? So I have a total of 105 transaction for a 100 with service charge. Subtotal is 105, and on top of this one, I'm going to charge as well VAT at 10% on the subtotal. Oopsie. So the final amount would be at 115.5. Is this correct? The VAT is charged on top of service charge and revenue.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So pretty much this is straightforward. And just a question. The property, as I know, is going by the net posting, right? When I say net posting in hospitality, it means when they're posting in the folio, they will post the final amount, not the um, uh, rate before taxes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All
So
right. So
in the
in the
system, when
system,
they
when they
post,
post,
oh, okay, in the system when they post in the folio, this the user would not do any calculation whatsoever. Whatever in the revenue would there be, they'll just post exactly as what they see in the menu, right? Or in the final price. Okay. So this is one tax. We can set this one as another tax group, right? We call this one as a tax group. It means the calculation of the taxes against a transaction code, right? Another tax group right here is for spa. You can consider this one as room. It's room tax. Okay. Revenue service charge is okay. So this is for the room tax. Now let's go for the spa. Okay, so for spa tax, I believe it's going to be the same. correct me if I'm wrong again, it's going to be this same calculation, but in this case, oh, VAT is, instead of VAT, we're going to have consumption tax at 30%. And on top of this one, we're going to add the VAT.
Joshua, actually, consumption tax should be before service charge because consumption tax only applies to very certain elements of the spa. Not all spa transactions are applicable for consumption tax.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. So service charge is still at 5, VAT is at 10. Am I correct to say so that, for example, for a revenue of 100, consumption tax will be added 30% on top here. Service charge will be charged on the subtotal of the revenue plus consumption tax. And the same again, VAT will be added on top of the subtotal of the service charge. Is that correct?
Just 1 second, Josh.
Sure, sure.
The service charge is 5 USD. And then the VAT is calculated from the sum of 130 and 5.
So the service charge only applies on the revenue, not on the consumption tax.
Not include consumption tax.
But the VAT
Total.
is total. Did you catch that, Josh? Sorry, Joshua.
I was on mute again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just
Sorry.
let me just
So
get
okay, the consumption tax is not included for the service charge calculation. So sorry, it's revenue plus consumption tax, and then service charge on revenue only, and then VAT on top of that whole bundle.
okay. So we don't have any subtotal.
Yeah.
So okay. So both taxes is against the revenue and subtotal for this one. And 10% would be added on the subtotal. Is this correct? The calculation is not correct, right?
Yes, correct.
All right. So basically on this setup, we'll be having two types of main tax setup in HMS. One with the consumption tax and one that doesn't have any consumption tax, right? Now, in order for us to interpret this one on our transaction code, if I would see here, we have different transaction code, tax transaction code for rooms, right? So I have here 150, 1050 for my service charge for room, and I have my VAT at 1052 for room as well, right? The same goes with my other charges right here, just like package, different service charge, and different VAT, right? Consumption tax would be from spa, special consumption tax, VAT, and service charge, right? So we have special spa tax, we have room tax, and the same goes if we're going to create another tax for, let's say, F&B. We will be using this same calculation, but using different tax code. Say this is for Bahay. Okay, let me just check. Oh, so you have a different taxes per meal. If I see this one correctly, different taxes per meal per what do you call this, per outlet. Is that correct to say so, Miss Ede?
Yes, per outlet because we want to track.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So
So
based on
based on
this
this,
based on this setup in the transaction code, we will be having multiple transaction group to be created in the system, right? One per outlet per meal period, and so on with the other outlets, just like revenue code rooms or spa. Okay. Now, the first thing that we would create enable for us to proceed with the taxes is that the transaction code that we're going to use as taxes and service charge. It will follow the same logic as, let me just go back to the room right on top of my list. It will follow the same logic as how do we create your transaction code right here. Okay. So I will create my taxes independently, right? So for example, for VAT, did I override them? Okay, I did not. VAT, then 52, VAT at 10%, transaction type taxes, revenue type taxes, tax charge, posting level 9. For taxes, please enable in the entire, treat this one as a system posting, right? Taxes should not be posted by the users manually, independently. So you can look at the taxes as a system code or POS code, right? So that when the user is picking up a transaction code when they're posting, they would not be overwhelmed by a lot of transaction codes right here. They wouldn't see the taxes. They would not mistakenly post like this service charge tax in the HMS manually or independently, right? The more access that we give to the users, especially for this back calculation transaction codes like taxes and service charge, the more it's going to be difficult for the finance to balance the books later on, right? So we can put it this way: posting level 9, uh, posting areas as this one, right? Let me just click on save right here. Oh, again, offsets. Should have put this one as mandatory so that it's easier for me to track later on, and click on save. So VAT is done. Now let's go to my service charge, right? Now, the same setup, right? What I'm going to change is just a few details right here. I don't want to start from the very beginning. What I'm going to do is to click this copy record. It means I'm going to copy the record view, clicking that one, change the particulars that I need to change. Transaction type here should be service charge, right? I have two ways, or basically, yeah, two ways. I can memorize all my codes right there in the code table and put it manually here, or search by the search box. Now, if you've noticed, there's only one list. There's only one item here in the list. Why is that so? There's a filter already right here in the drop down or in the lookup field, because we have already a defined item right here in the transaction type or in my selection. So the system will just automatically copy it over on my list. Now, in order for me to see the full list, I can just here's that one and click on run once again. And from here, I can see all the list. I can filter both ways by the code and the description, right? Now, the filter right here is basically contained. So it means you don't have to put in the um, exact description, right? You don't have to put in the starting words. or starting letters, starting characters, you can just actually search by just like a partial search, we call it. Like, for example, I'll be looking at service. I can just put here CE, right? And the system will show me all the codes or the items that ends or that has CE in the description by service charge. Copy that one over. Make sure that it's correct, that the system is picking up. Revenue, right? The lookup field will only be enabled in this type of field right here with the magnifying glass on the list. And drop down, you cannot filter that one out. You can just have select the items right here, or you can just type in partially and pick up whatever that is matching. And finally, click on save, right? So what I've done here is I have created the two elements for my transaction code, the taxes and the service charge. Now, how do we attach these taxes against my revenue codes? Again, if you remember, I can just click on split view to expose the list of my data right here. Can go to my accommodation, right? How do I attach the tax? Now from here, the system is asking me two datas right here, the tax code and the tax group. Now, if you remember in our discussion, I called this setup as tax group, right? So that one right here will be placed under this field right here. But again, we still have to create this tax group in the system, right? Tax status, this is going to be used especially in other countries in the Philippines when say you have a different tax setup for a different type of guest, let's say for a diplomat or a senior citizen, they don't pay VAT. So we will be attaching two tax group on a different tax code. So that is the use of the tax code right here. In Vietnam, since we don't offer such tax exemption, right, we will only maintain one tax group right here, our tax code. Let me just create that one real quick. Oops, one more there. Let's see if this works now. Tax status. Okay, I'll just select one tax status right here for all transaction code with tax, right? Just take note of that one. All transaction code with taxes, you will select tax status code and you will select the tax group right here, right? Since I don't have that one for now, let me just save this one in preparation, right? Can just go in back into the details and add the tax group later on, right? Now, let's create the tax group, this arrangement right here, right? Let me just split my screen right over here. Okay. So I have my tax status right here, tax group. Now, enable for you to create a tax group, right? You have to go to administration, property, setup, and we have here tax groups, right? So we don't touch tax status. We're done with that one, right? We're just going to focus merely on the tax group moving forward. Okay. Now from here in the tax group, right, we will create one tax group depends on the arrangement right here on our transaction code. For example, this red one, I can call this one as room tax group, right? This one is Naho package tax group, different to Naho package breakfast tax group, right? So we'll be creating a lot. If you see here, we have a lot of red marks, right? We will create multiple tax group for each, right? Each cluster, right? So basically for this one, this would take a lot of time from the finance to create the tax group in the system, right? Just so you know, we need this tax group to be created before we go on training or before we take out the live and restore to training so that we can do testing, right? So for finance, we have a lot of things to do, filling in the transaction code with the taxes, right? Because we need to take this setup and copy to training, and then we're doing some testing if the calculation is going correctly. All right, so let's create first the basic tax setup for the room. Okay, now tax group, I should have a code from here. So for this example, let me just create a basic one, room tax full. Right? Confirmation with the property. Are you okay with this description? Um, do you have anything in mind that you might want to call this tax setup? Okay.
No, I think we're okay.
All right. All right. Okay. Now I can call this one as room tax full, and I can put here SC at 5% and VAT at 10%, right? You can have the details right here, right? And effective date. Okay, what is my hotel date currently? 16 October. Okay, let me just put it as 16 of October so that I can do some testing earlier than the training date, right? When you pick up the date, it's already right over there, 16, okay? And it will be generate as inclusive, right? Remember, we're posting one line posting in the system, right? All inclusive. And finally, click on save, okay? Now, before we attach the transaction code to this tax group is that, let's say, for example, 2022, and the government has a mandate to change the taxes. Instead of having 10% VAT, they're moving up to 11%. Okay. When they're moving up to 11%, you don't have to create a new tax group. Don't create any new tax group. You just have to duplicate this tax group and set a new effective date with this tax group. Automatically, your transaction code would follow this new taxes when this effective date kicks in, right? But of course, we have to modify the percentage sharing of these taxes right here in the transaction code. Okay, now going here in the transaction code, we will select the taxes in order. Okay, so first is we will configure this one the nearest to the revenue. My nearest to the revenue is service charge, so I'll be picking up my service charge right here. Service charge 1050. Okay, Just one moment. Let me just go one here. Let me just check on one thing right here. Okay, I got this one correctly. Okay, offset code, you can use your system offset code, right? We will explain to you this one a little bit later on how this offset codes plays around with the system, right? Tax base, where am I going to post this taxes against? So I'm going to post this one against the amount or their revenue. Taxes percentage, 5% inclusive. Click on save. Charges may have been posted. Just click on save. And going to the next one, which is the VAT. Okay, my VAT offset code would be system offset for now. My tax base is, this one is not against the amount, but this is against my subtotal. Where are you, subtotal? Here you go. Okay, and the percentage is 10% inclusive. Click on save. Charges may have been posted. Click save, and yes. So you see here, my service charge as seen here is posted 5% against the amount or the revenue, and my VAT is against my subtotal. Okay, now we have a very important feature here, for finance especially, and that's what we call the offset code, offset transaction code, right? Now, let me just pick up my notes right here real quick. Before we go any further, any questions with setting up this transaction code with the tax group?
I have one question about the tag group.
Yes,
Why we not just create only one and then we apply for every transaction?
correct. Um, we can do that one. That's very good insight. Let me just quickly hold on, right. You can just unmute, Miss Helen, you can just unmute if you have any additional, right? So why is that we can't just create one tax group for the entire transaction code, right? First reason is for spa and room, you see that we have different taxes attached and different mechanics, right? So at least we can create two. Why can't we just create two? One for the spa, one for the room and F&B. Another another is that we do have multiple taxes, right? Different taxes per revenue codes. That is why we have to create different tax group with different transaction code attached, right? But if it's the property's prerogative that it's okay for us not to track what taxes is being posted against F&B, if it's the same with the room, it's okay. Taxes is tax, VAT is VAT. That's fine. You can just use one transaction group for F&B and room altogether. You can do that one, right? Now it's up. Okay, go, Miss Helen. You have anything?
I mean that, okay, when we create a tag group, we apply for every transaction, but we can track the tag from another outlet. For example, like we create the tag for the outlet A, but we can see the tag is from outlet A by the transaction code.
Correct.
Is it? Correct,
That
right?
is also fine. Yes.
Yeah, so we have no need to create a lot of the tag group. We just do only one for room and another one for spa. That's the different one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in that case, you might want to use this taxes for sorry, let me just mute for. All right. So Or this one, you might want to use only one tax and service charge for F&B and rooms, all right? Then you can track the taxes per transaction code. Although they're using one transaction code for tax and service charge, you can do that one based on the reporting, right? Let me just pull out one example right here. Let's say I'm going to use my posting journal report, right? And let's say I'm going to show, where's my tax? Show tax amount and show net amount, okay? I'm not concerned about what transaction code taxes is for F&B or for rooms. I just want to know the amount itself, right? Because they're using the same transaction code. Click on preview. Make sure that my date is correct, 19. All right. And you can see here, right, that we have a net amount and we have the tax amount right over here, right, in the system separately. Okay, you can do that one tracking the taxes of each of the revenue code separately, right? Or
Or
is in one
is in
report,
one report.
Yes, this one should be all right.
right? Just let me just also go with that one further. Is that this only focuses on tax, right? Service charge again would be a different transaction code right over here, right here, service charge, right? Now, if the focus of the property is just only to track the taxes, we can use this type of report to separate the taxes in one form or one report. But just to let you know, this one right here does not include taxes, does not include service charge. This is only for the transaction code. If you remember in our setup right here in the transaction code, if that one is tagged as taxes right here, right? If the revenue type is service charge, then it wouldn't be part of this column right here, right? Now, is it okay with the property if or you want
Or
to
you
have
want to have
discussion
discussion
further? We
further,
can
we
take
can
a
take
break.
a break.
Yeah. Okay.
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 So
So
I will
I
give you
will give
time
you
to
time to
discuss if
discuss
what
if
type
what
of
type of
arrangement you'd
arrangement
like to
you'd like to
use if you're
use
going
if
to
you're
use
going to
one
use one
tax only
tax
for the
only for the
entire
entire
transaction, or you want to use again separate transaction for each outlet and meal period wherein you have to create multiple tax group, right? I'll give that one to you guys on discussion. Maybe we can have um, more than 15 minutes, right? I'll just get back to you in 15 after 15 minutes on that one. You can have your own discussion and we can discuss more further upon doing the transaction group. Okay, so we will talk to you back later on after 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jack.
year. Okay.
We're okay to continue, Joshua, whenever you're ready. Sorry, Joshua, you're muted just in case we should hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Are we all good to start?
Yeah, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay. All right. So for finance, do we prefer to have the taxes separated, or you just have you just need one tax for all the transactions?
Can I see the report again?
Okay. Here you go. Okay, take this laundry. That's 100.
That's 100.
Okay, I think we should prefer only one because we just create only one group that enough, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check once
Let me
again on
check once again on this one.
All right, so as per checking, as I have set up a example right here that this posting is inclusive, right? So for this example, if the user will, let's say, post 100 charge for laundry, right? the revenue or the posting would actually go, let's say, to the guest facing folio, which either of these windows right here, except for the accounting, and the taxes would actually play at the background, wherein there will be an offset code, right? So this offset code is will reverse the revenue itself, right? Enable for the taxes to be distributed, right? So if you see here, you can see also here in these taxes that is 13.42, right? This 13.42 would now be distributed accordingly per value added tax and the service charge, right? So in the system, the user would actually be seeing in the front desk, so they will be seeing only one line, right, of posting. But in the back end, in the accounting folio, we call it accounting folio where the taxes and packages are being distributed, there are all the offset codes right here, right, wherein the revenue is being distributed or the taxes are being distributed accordingly, right? So now if you see here, that reversal would actually now be called offset code. If you remember here when we are doing the tax setup, show you here in the demo. Okay, so for service charge, right, 5% service charge, what transaction code do I need to use to offset or to take revenue from my amount? When I posted 100 and I'm going to reverse 13 point, let's say 48, what transaction code am I going to reverse that revenue for my um, taxes? Now that is what we call offset transaction code. This is to take the amount for the taxes against the revenue, right? Now, in each of the transaction for taxes and service charge, you can actually use different offset code, right? In this example, I'm just using a generic offset code for these taxes. But ultimately, if the property chooses to use different offset code, then the posting will be, let's say in this example, would be 5 line, and different offset code for VAT and different offset code for service charge. Going to your transaction code right here, we have here the service charge and VAT, and down below here, down in the service required codes, right? We have actually prepared this offset code for the taxes itself for each revenue department or for each transaction type, right? This is supposed to be used if we're using multiple taxes, right? So for better reconciliation, um, we might use a different transaction code, or we are going to use different transaction code for taxes, F&B, and rooms, and those transaction code would be offset, or those taxes will be offset by these respective offset codes, right? Let's say for the rooms, for the VAT rooms, I'll be using this 9982, and for F&B, I'll be using 9985, right? So I think if the property chooses not to go with a detailed taxes, we won't be needing this one, right? The offset per transaction code. But would you would you think that it would be better for the property in terms of reconciliation to have a different offset code for service charge and VAT, or would you like to use a same offset code?
Should be different.
Should be different.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need two more transaction codes for offset VAT and service charge. Actually, it's gonna be three. We have consumption tax. Yeah. Should we use the first three right here, or are you going to create a new one?
If the code we don't use, we can replace this one.
All right, so we have here the offset codes for VAT, service charge, and consumption tax. And since we're using only one transaction code for each of the taxes, which of these taxes will going to be used? Is it because currently we have different, right? So if we have rooms right here on top, right? Do you have anything in mind that a single transaction will be used for service charge and VAT, or would you create a new one?
You mean that the transaction code, this transaction code need to delete and just create only one for overall transaction code, right? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
For the VAT.
For the
For the
okay.
VAT. Okay.
Tips would
would
still be
still be
retained,
retained,
but we only
but
need
we
a
only
generic
need a generic.
transaction code for the spa service charge, VAT, and consumption tax. Is there any code in particular that we're going to use?
Okay, maybe I confused because I thought that the transaction code will still remain the same, and then for the group we just create only one, and then we apply to the transaction code of VAT. It's not about that. Not about that, right?
It's not about that
It's not
because
about that
each
because
transaction
each
group
transaction
will be
group
used
will be used
for each
for
transaction
each
code
transaction
with
code with
attached
attached.
is the different transaction group transaction code for VAT and service charge. But it's okay for us to use the existing one if because most of the property would actually go with the separate transaction taxes for each revenue group or revenue type for reconciliation purposes.
Okay, maybe we remain the same.
Remain the same.
Remain
Okay.
the same. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right. So
All right. So
okay, let me just proceed on creating the. I think I have deleted it for the taxes. Okay. So before going further, I'm going to create the offset code for the rooms so that's easier for us to do a reconciliation. Let me just open this one up again. Right. So I'm going to create this offset for now. Just going to copy from my system offset. This one, transaction type should be room. So that when I'm printing out my revenue report, then my rooms will calculate accordingly with the taxes. Okay, so offset room there is. Just leave that one as room tax full. Start at the 16 in generate inclusive. Okay, now going to my transaction code, just a review, I'm going to use my where is that? There you go. 1050 for service charge. And then the offset code is I'm going to put it under the rooms. Tax base is amount 5%. And added to that one is my VAT. Offset code is again rooms. Tax base in this case is subtotal. Percentage. Okay. Now going to the tax. Okay. What I'm going to do is just duplicate this one. I don't want to start from the very beginning, but I'm going to duplicate this one, right? And just change this one to spa. Effective date would be 16. You can save. And in the transaction code, I'm just going to delete this one since I'll be using a different transaction code, right? I'll be using this transaction code right here, which I should have created before I started my tax group. Okay, 3503. Okay. Now for VAT, since I have a VAT right here, I'm just going to copy 3502 for my VAT. Same description. Tax charge. And I'm going to copy from my service charge 3501. And finally, my consumption tax. This will be part of my taxes. Just copy from my tax. Consumption tax and save. Right, so I have the three elements right here. Then I'm now ready to create my transaction group. Okay, so from here, the first thing that I'm going to do is check on my calculation. Right, so first is my tax for my consumption tax. That is 30%. That's 503. Offset code. Let me create my offset code for taxes. For spa.
Sorry, just quickly, Joshua. Can we call this one massage? Because actually this only applies on the massage treatments of the spa. So the first two transaction codes in that section. All the rest of the transactions in the spa would apply the normal setup, excluding this consumption tax.
Oh, this one, a massage, right? And also, oh, this one is spa. For the service charge, you want to change it as well for massage? Or?
No, for the service charge and for the VAT, it's fine. But basically, it's two tax setups for the spa, right? One is massage, including the consumption tax, and the other ones are all the other elements of the spa that is excluding consumption tax.
Oh, okay. So in that case, only this will be creating a new tax group for massage and spa. Right. Let me just have this one as massage then. And this one is with consumption tax. Offset spa. Right. So for the massage, consumption tax 3053. Offset code is offset spa. tax base should be amount, and the percentage would be 30. Same goes with the service charge. Okay, make sure that I pick up correctly. Service charge spa. Okay. Five. And finally is my VAT for spa. And this one is now under subtotal. Percentage would be 10 and spa, right? So if you see the difference between these two tax group right here, the massage and room, is that I'll be having a 3 transactions right here, or transaction code for taxes and service charge and VAT, and the subtotal will always be attached to the VAT as my tax base, right? Other transaction codes or other tax setup for F&B would follow the same logic as your room. So for example, if I'm going right here and let's say for breakfast, NOFD, let me see, NOFD, lunch, service charge, they'd be having the same, if you see this one from finance, they'll be having the same description. Is this correct? From finance? They'll be having the same description but different transaction codes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. So the logic of creating the tax group is that you can actually copy the setup from room tax, right? Since our massage full is already done, there are special tax. The taxes for the F&B and other minor operating department will similar to your room tax, right? So you can copy this one, right? Put in your title, and in the transaction code, you can change or you can delete the transaction code detail right here and change it to the correct spa and service charge attached to. But the percentage will always be the same. So again, you have the guide right here of what tax setup should be done in the transaction code, right? You can copy the same setup and you just have to change the transaction code. And one last thing is your offset code right here. If you remember, I have sent an email for the finance to provide us the offset code for each of the revenue, right? So we have it right here down below. What are the offset codes that will be charged against or posted against the taxes, right? So if it's coming from rooms, then we have rooms. Same goes as F&B and so on. You don't have to be detailed for the offset codes for the meal period and the outlet. We just have general offset codes to be used against the taxes, right? Any questions so far with the tax groupings on how do we create the tax group?
All good from our side.
All good from our side. Okay. Okay. Now, since we have the taxes, we are now going to attach the tax group to the transaction code, right? So again, going back to our accommodation, we have here the tax default, right? But we don't have any tax group. When we get posting from the accommodation charge, the scenario there is there will be a charge, right? Let's say, for example, 100. There'll be 100 accommodation charge, but the taxes wouldn't go through. Now, in this case, you have to go to the tax status and select the tax group accordingly. In this case, this room tax full, and click on save. Right? So in the tax status, the tax status code is only tax, and the revenue code will be having different tax group altogether. Right? Now let's go back here in the transaction code and let's review some of the codes right here. Right? I have marked some of these codes as orange because this one right here is not actually required by HMS, just like the deposit reservation and deposit FO. Right? This transaction right here are not being required by HMS. Right? This would not be used in HMS at all. Right? I think this is coming from a different PMS, so to speak, that they require different deposit code for reservation and deposit code for FO. In HMS, our deposit codes, when you receive a deposit, you'll be posting the transaction code if the payment code, whatever the payment has been received from, right? So if you receive cash, the front desk will post cash in the deposit, right? And during check-in, that amount would be transferred from the deposit ledger to the guest ledger using this transaction code, right? So this one right here would not be used at all in HMS, so I would not be uploading this one, as well as the AR payment codes for credit card. Again, since we are using an interface, the interface would not permit us to create two different transaction codes or more for the same credit card type. For example, you receive an Amex, you have to post Amex, American Express, either in FO, folio, or in AR, payment screen. They'll be using only one transaction code for that, right? But in terms of reconciliation, HMS will have a report called posting journal or AR posting journal, wherein the posting in the AR ledger would be separated in from the guest ledger, right? Though they are using the same transaction codes for payments, but then again, the the ledgers or the report would actually segregate what is posted in the AR and what is posted in the guest ledger, right? Shift drop, we are not using this, all right? So we will not upload this one altogether. Okay, package ABF service charge. All right, I need to check with you guys, when do we use this transaction code for ABF? And as well for spa package taxes.
This one is related to the package,
Okay.
Okay.
So just to confirm once again, for if this is used for the package, and let's say if I have here my spa, basically you are telling me that this one right here is only used for POS posting or manual posting, is it? And for package, we'll be using the one below.
This one is mean that the package include with our rate, and then we need to break down. So that is from HMS. It's not from POS.
Correct. So if it is from the package, you were using this tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Now going up here for the tax for the spa. Which transaction code is used for package? Do you have a specific transaction code? Or are you gonna use the same?
The package code, that's we don't have it here. No, the 3016, this one, the package.
Oh, this one. Okay. Right, thank you. So for this one, the factors that we're going to attach is not 3502 and 3503, but instead we're going to use this one right here. All right, and I see here in the package we don't have consumption tax. Am I right for the spa package? It's only service charge and VAT. Is it correct?
Ngô, can you confirm for this one? Because I'm not sure about SPAR.
In spa revenue, only the massage must be applied the Spencer consumption tax. The other package is the same with room revenue and F&B revenue.
But what if the package includes massage?
We have to split it. And other we can pay on the spa menu and we decide which one is massage and which one is included in the treatment package. Normally treatment package we don't apply the consumption tax.
Even if there is a massage element included, we're okay?
We just change the name.
Okay. So yes, so basically no consumption tax in there.
All right. Okay. So we'll consider this one. Let me just change the color for this. Right. So other than that, transaction codes right here are pretty much straightforward, and offset spa. I don't think we need this one. Oh, just to check. Okay, so for this one, I'll be using this list of transaction codes to be uploaded. And later on today, I'll give you an update if we have already attached, if I have already uploaded the transaction codes in the system wherein the finance has to go and check and attach the taxes. Right, I'll give you the update later on this afternoon after we have uploaded all the taxes. Yeah, sorry, uploaded all the transaction codes. Any questions before we leave the transaction code from finance?
I think I'm okay now.
Okay. All right. Now let's go to the forms. Oh. All right. So basically for the forms, we have received the draft of the folio and the reg card from the team. So we're gonna work on that one. And for AR forms, right? Let me just show you one of the forms right here as a sample, right? So HMS will be having the standard forms in Asia Pacific, right? Where we are using a standard recommended forms across all the properties, right? Um, So I'll be going to forward you this forms right here for sign off if you're for you to check as well if the formatting is correct, right? Just like for the statement, because some of the forms right here we have very limited um, a place to modify the forms altogether, right? Now just like for the AR statement, right? The first part right here, or the first half of the forms right here, are pretty much standard, wherein we have the invoice amount, paid amount, and the remaining amount right here. We don't recommend too many customization on this one, but the thing that the property can change is that we can change the title on each of these headers right here, just like as well as for these AR terms, right? I'm going to forward you guys as well these AR terms wherein you can provide us the details on the footer of this AR forms for your bank account, your remittance address, and all those things, right? Now, One quick question with the finance is that would you be having one single AR account, bank account, wherein the client can pay those charges from the AR, or do you have any multiple bank account used for collection?
I think better we use only one single. No?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
So for
So
one single
for
bank
one single
account,
bank account,
it's
it's
the benefit
the
of that
benefit
one
of that one
is that the user, the moment that they're printing the AR statement, they would always select the correct one, right? And it's easier for us to modify the remittance address at the moment that we're printing the uh, AR statement. So we will give you a list of the required information from you guys, just like this one. It actually depends upon you if what are the details, right? If you want to change, you put the account name down at the bottom. You can design your own AR remittance address, right? From here, right? If you don't want this type of format on this part, you can modify, right? You let us know so that we can do the programming for this one. And it is actually based on text wherein even the property is live already, they can go ahead and change the particulars for the bank account and so on. So for that is for the AR statement. Just a quick confirmation with the property. Are you okay to have this type of AR statement, or is this AR statement fine with you guys?
Let me check first. Can you
Okay.
send us the template? Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yes,
We will
sure.
send
We
you the
will send you
templates
the
for this one.
templates for this one.
Yeah.
Right? So just one thing is that if we do modify, right, a form, you would actually go out of the usual programming in HMS wherein there is some compromise to the forms itself, just like the speed of the forms to be loaded, right? If we do a lot of customization, is that um, the thing is when the user prints out a form, right? Let's say AR statement, it would compromise the time of printing out that form because there's a lot of fields, there's a lot of reconsideration that the form will pull out from the system and able to produce a final form. That's one of the disadvantage. And another one is that every upgrade, especially that we are in SaaS, right, in cloud, every upgrade, there's a big chance of the form to reset and sometimes it will fail, right? Because every time that a new form or a new version will comes up in HMS, we are adding a lot of features not only to HMS as well as in the forms. So if the pre-configured form that we have, if we do customize the form and it doesn't agree with the new design, most likely we will be having that form take down and we do some repair and it would take some time for that form to be up and in service back again because we have set a customized we are setting actually a customized programming to the property specific itself, right? Right, but doing some changes, just like I don't want the batch date to be here, can you put the guest name right in the dead center? We can do that one, right? We can do the customize on that one. Adding fields, right? That would be a big challenge, especially from the programming side. Currency exchange, just to reconfirm with you guys, currency exchange, do you take a pre-printed form from the bank using the currency exchange, or do you use the one in the system? I'm not quite sure about the standards in Vietnam.
1 second, Joshua.
Sure.
or we have to make the form.
Yeah, I think we will be using the form from the bank, Joshua, but we don't have the format just yet.
Okay, that's fine. So it's gonna be a pre-printed format just like this, wherein the headers would not be provided by the system. The only thing would be this name, right, the amount, and all those particulars. Wherein we're going to be printed. If you're gonna print it in blank paper, then there's no, that's just the data, right? So we're gonna wait for the pre-printed format or the template, and from that we can start on the foreign currency alignment. Let me just take note of that one. Pre-printed invoice, I'm not sure if we're still gonna use this one because we're using e-invoicing. Would somebody confirm that one, that information with us? We are moving forward with doing e-invoicing if I'm not correct, if I'm right.
Yes, we will be using e-invoice so that this can be omitted.
Okay, good. Payment receipt is that this receipt is being printed at the moment of reservation, just like a proof of payment. It is generated from the system when um, the user receive a payment and the guest needs a receipt only for that payment, right? Not in the not folio whatsoever, just a proof of payment. They can use this one. Say a guest checks in, right? Doesn't have any credit card and needs to pay for incidental deposit, right? So for incidental deposit credit card, of course, you can print out the payment slip or the EDC slip from the machine, credit card machine. But let's say if it's cash, then the user might want to use or print this payment receipt from HMS, right? So this is the standard of payment receipt, right? The alignment is a bit off for now, right? But basically these are the details that would be seen in the payment receipt, right? Date of payment, the payment method, right? And the amount. Also the comment will be there if there's any, with the guest name, room number, and the receipt itself, receipt number. So this is a standard form in HMS, right? You might want to use this one or you may not, but it would be there in the system as a default. And another one is the paid out receipts. I believe the property will be using paid out, right? So payment in behalf, or the guest wants to take in advance cash, right? You can use this one as a paid out receipt. And we have added here signature panels, right? For the cashier, for the guest, and the duty manager who approved the transaction. It's pretty much the same as a copy of the payment receipt right here. If I'm going to put this one side by side, pretty much the same, right? The details would be the same, exactly the same. But in this case, we have an approver signature panel here when the duty manager can approve this paid out. But again, if you don't want this field right here, like a duty manager to sign, then we can omit this one as well. And finally, guest message. I believe the property will be having an interface with IPTV, right? Basically, when you create a guest message in the system, a message would appear in the guest TV right there and then when they check in or when they turn on the TV, a guest message would be there. So that's a separate configuration with the interface team, with the third-party provider for the guest message. But just in case the messaging system is down, as a backup, HMS will be having this default guest message, right? Printout wherein the property can print out this one, right, to send to the room of the guest as a substitute or alternative for the IPTV guest message. Right? So all these forms I'm going to forward to you guys for you to check and to provide comments with us, and our programmer will see if what are the things in customization are possible and what are the things that we can't do for the forms. All right. Okay, for reg card, we have some default right here, but I believe the property has provided us already with the forms. Um, our programmer is now looking into it and doing the configuration for that one. Okay, guest folio. All right, so for finance and for operation, right, I'll also be providing this guest folio right here for you to check. Right, this is a pretty standard for Asia Pacific region, and actually this one is being taken out of one of our property installed in Vietnam as well. This is the same form that they're using for the folio. Right, so this is not the invoice yet. This is just a pre-confirmation of the charges before the guest pay. Right, and finally, for the final receipt that will be printed as an invoice or generated through e-invoicing. Right, so in the operation, you can imagine that during the checkout process, when the guest comes in and reconfirm or doing the checkout in the front desk agent or the guest services usually prints a folio for the guest to check the charges, right? So they can check all the charges from here, right? And we also have the summary down below here, but basically this one right here is not to be used as a final receipt or invoice, right? Because this is just a guest folio. This is just a little bit of preview of how much balance you have, how much tax included in the charges altogether, right? Um,
Um, we didn't see the service charge. Service charge should be shown here, no?
in the summary,
In the summary? The bottom one, the breakdown.
in the breakdown.
In the breakdown.
Okay, let me
Okay,
just take
let me
note
just
of
take
that
note
one
of
for the
that one
service
for the service
charge.
charge.
Okay,
Okay.
but best is
But
that I
best
will
is that I
forward
will
this
forward this
form, all the
form,
forms to
all the
you
forms
guys,
to you guys,
and all those
and
notes
all
that
this.
you have. You can just write. You can reply to that email. Right? What are the observations and what are the things that you would like to see in the forms? Just like example for today, that we don't have the service charge here. We would like to have the service charge to be populated in the folio. Then please do let us know on that email. But for me, I'll just take note of that one as well.
Sorry, Joshua, for this one, we have sent you a template that we would prefer. I'm not sure if you're able to change it this way. That already includes the service charge breakdown a bit different
In the folio, okay.
for the folio, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me. I'll forward that one to. I'll check with our programmer for the progress on that one and let you know, with the designs. I think we can also add the service charge if I'm not mistaken here with some programming uh, modifications. Okay. Okay. Now, one general question for finance is that when we're doing invoice, right? When we're doing invoice for AR, right? Example for the guest is checking out today, right? And the charges is being paid by the company through City Ledger or AR. Um, when do you like that charges to be starting aging? Is it
Is
by
it
the
by
go ahead from
go ahead
finance?
from finance? I think from the date of checkout.
Date of
Date of
checkout, or
checkout, or
do you want
do you
the
want
charges to start age at the date of invoice? because sometimes the front desk might be forwarding the invoice in advance, right? Let's say the guest will be checking out tomorrow, and today they will be doing a pre-departure check, right? And I'm going to invoice this guest today, or any advance charges that the guest already or the front desk has already forwarded to AR. At the moment of invoicing, we have two options that the charge would start invoicing, right? We can Most property would do it at the date of invoice, right? Rarely we see a property that do a aging at the day of checkout, because sometimes the guest will be having a long stay, right? And you're trying to invoice one charge or one set of week that the guest has already stayed with you, right? And in that week, you're cutting off the bill, you're invoicing these charges and start collecting, right? But the guest will actually be checking out next month. If we do the invoicing based on the checkout date, then those invoices that has been forwarded to AR previously would not be starting invoice, right? So just to let you know, some of the properties or most of our properties do the invoicing at the time of at the invoicing date. Are you going to follow the same, or, or is it with you that you're going to do an in aging by checkout date?
So we will invoice the VAT invoice after get checked out at the day of the checkout.
At the day of checkout. And then what do you call this? The invoice would start on the day of invoice. Could we do that one, or you still
You still
Check
go
out
with the
date,
go with
please.
the
checkout date?
checkout date.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let me just go back to the system once again, just to do a random review. All right. Also in the system, we do have what we call sequence number, right? Sequence number is just like a prefix to the form itself. Let's say, for example, for a payment receipt, if you see here, we have the receipt number, right? This receipt number would be having a running number right here, and also a prefix, right? That is controlled by this feature right here called sequence number. So for example, for check payments, I would like my check cash receipt to start in CA. I can do that one. Also for paid out, do so that when I'm from finance and I'm looking on the form itself, right? I can easily check what are uh, the forms itself, or what are the transaction itself based on the receipt number, right? Um, for this one, I will set the current standards that we have in HMS for a sequence number, right? But during the training, just in case you have already in mind something in mind with the sequence number, just let me know so that I can teach you where do we change the sequence number altogether, right? This is very much important, especially when you're tracking cash transactions. It's like currency exchange, you can do it as FX, and so, right? The value of this one is really minor. It's just putting a prefix in front of the running number in the form itself, right? So again, for this one, I'll just put in the standard one that we have, and just let me know if you agree with this one during the training when we're starting to print out the report, and we can change it from there itself. And finally, right here in the property AR account, in terms of invoicing, oh, sorry, I believe we are using, sorry, e-invoicing. So most of your charges will go directly to the invoices instead of going to the charge. Right. And just forget about that one. I'm trying to reach about the invoice method wherein the charges is posted directly in AR. Right. Like let's say for an extra bed, if you want to charge the company itself, not the guest, the company of extra bed, then you go to the AR and post the extra bed there without going through the guest ledger. But as a best practice is that any charges coming from any charges to the company, all charges should be posted from the guest uh, from the guest ledger itself. So we'll just skip on this one. Okay. Anything from the property that you'd like to raise? Any notes or any questions do you have before we end?
No, I think for the forms we're all okay. Thanks.
All right. Okay, so just a rundown with our task for today. So from my side, I'll be uploading all the transaction codes, and after which I'll be sending you the updates. And the property or the finance now can go and create first is the transaction group, right? Create the transaction group first, and then finally go to the transaction code and check the record view. The record view with all the restrictions and all of that. And finally is the tax status where you're going to attach all the tax status to those rooms, to those transaction codes, right? And for this one, we need this one to be completed. Let me check on the schedule. Right, so our first training day is on 9th of November, right? We need that one at least before 9th of November so that we can take down that live database and put it into training to do further testing, right? And also we need the taxes and the transaction codes to be partially completed for tomorrow, especially for the room codes, especially for the room transaction codes, right? Just like your resident uh, your resident transaction codes, right? Because we're going to create rate plans out of these transaction codes, right? So we need the room accommodation, your no-show, your resident charge, and your extra bed, all those charges that needs to be created with an item in the system, non-room item, your packages, breakfast, and all of that. That should be the priority for transaction codes, especially for tomorrow, right? But further than that, all the POS posting, your restaurant charges, right? You can leave that one be. Prioritize first the room charges and those manual posting, and you can just complete it for the next subsequent week before the training day starts, right? Okay.
Sorry, Joshua, you're gonna
Yes,
upload them for us, or we need to upload them manually?
I will be
I will
uploading
be
this one
uploading this
for
one
the
for
property, but
property,
for the
but for
checking,
the
I will leave
checking, I
that
will
one
leave
to
that
the
one
finance
to.
team.
Sorry, Joshua, I didn't hear you. Can you say that one more time?
Well, I think there was a feedback there. Um, I will be uploading the list of transaction codes in the record view, right? And finance will just go and check the things, right? So you will see all the transaction codes listed here as uploaded, but finance still have to go and check the security levels and attach the tax group. That's the thing for the finance,
Okay.
right? Any further questions before we end?
Before we end,
Uh, can I have a link to log in and see the system when you want us to check?
Yes,
yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Are you in the
Are
call?
you in the call?
think IT manager is not with us today. But anyways,
Oh, sorry, Mr. Yum is here. Yes, he will share. He will share with, or he will create the access for him.
all right. So yes, Miss Celine, the access will be provided to you for that one, as well as for the rest of the group, for the finance, for you to actually share the lapers as well. This task can be done by multiple people. Right? Maybe somebody can check the record view in the transaction code. Somebody can go to the tax code and attach, and somebody can create the tax group itself. Okay. Anything else?
It's okay for me.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, also from our
All right. So with that, guys, I will return to you 30 more minutes for your discussion, and we'll send you the update today. You have a good day ahead, and please let me know if you have any question. Please do not hesitate to send me emails. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.